The Law and You, a look at laws in St. Vincent and the Grenadines which affect our daily lives. The Law and You, presented by lawyer panel P.R Campbell QC and brought to you on SVG-TV as a public service.
Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, boys and girls, greetings. Welcome to another presentation in this public service nation-building series, The Law and You. This is program 909, coming to you on Monday the 13th of August 2018. On this program, I will speak to you on the topic, the Census and Statistics Act. But before getting into the topic, a few preliminary comments. First of all, and as usual, deepest condolences go out from me to all families which have suffered recent bereavements. And in that connection, the family of my late legal brother, Mr. Arthur Williams, has my deepest condolences. The brother would be laid to rest sometime in the not too distant future. The date has not been finalized, likely to be on Saturday, but that is not certain. But he was a titan at the bar, qualified with a bachelor's degree and master's degree in London, and has been one of the most senior members of the legal profession of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. He shall be greatly missed. Further afield, we heard on the weekend of the death of that great Caribbean author, Sir Vidya Naipaul, V.S. Naipaul, fondly remembered for a number of books, but I think the most known of his works was A House for Mr. Biswas, which students of Caribbean literature had to do for Cambridge School Certificate and I believe the CXC. Sir Vidya was awarded the Nobel Laureate among several other prizes, but he got the Nobel Laureate Prize for Literature in 2001 and is said to have written over 30 books. I have thoroughly enjoyed those of his novels which I have read, and I had to study A House for Mr. Biswas, Mystic Masseur, The Mimic Men Among the Believers, and so on and so forth. On a happier note, I am pleased to report that our good friend and spiritual brother, Bishop Cecil George Riley, is in the land. He has come for the August convention at the Freedom Hall Church of God, Reeves Level, a church with which I am associated through the youth group. The convention was opened last evening and will be closing next Sunday evening. And one of the highlights of this convention would be the visit that is intended to be paid to the brethren at Spring Village on Wednesday evening. So you in Spring Village, look out for the bishop and his team. Welcome to St. Vincent and the Grenadines once again, Bishop Riley, Lady Riley, other members of the delegation. And I do hope you have a spirit-filled time here with us, as usual. Okay, I want to get into the topic now. And I begin the topic by reading from the Gospel of St. Luke, chapter 2, verses 1 to 5. I will read first the King James Version. Then I will read the first two verses in the New King James Version edition. Luke 2:1. And it came to pass in those days that there went out a decree from Caesar Augustus that all the world should be taxed. And this taxing was first made when Cyrenius was governor of Syria. And all went to be taxed, everyone into his own city. And Joseph also went up from Galilee, out of the city of Nazareth, into Judea, unto the city of David, which is called Bethlehem, for he was of the house and lineage of David, to be taxed with Mary his espoused wife, being great with child. That is the King James Version. The New King James Version says, and it came to pass in those days that a decree went out from Caesar Augustus that all the world should be registered. Verse 2. This census first took place while Quirinius was governor of Syria. I'm sure you'll spot the difference. The old King James Version used the word tax, which we all grew up on, but the modern translation is census, registered. Therefore, the activity of taking a census is an activity going back into the centuries. And I want to look at our Census and Statistics Act, which was first codified in 1983 and now finds itself as Chapter 263 of the revised version of the laws of St. Vincent and Grenadines, 2009. Basically, a census is the gathering of information by the governmental authorities from the citizens of the country, a gathering of information. So it is basically a statistical exercise, deals with figures, with numbers. When I graduated in economics and political science from the University of Saskatchewan, 1968, incidentally, June this year marked 50 years, 50, since I got my first university degree, for which I thank the government and people of Canada. 50 years. When I graduated as a student of economics and political science, the science of economics was not as advanced as it is today. Because these days when I venture to read any serious text in economics, I feel I'm back to square one. The world has changed in so many ways. But when I started studying the subject, I was made aware that the science of economics is totally dependent on the science of statistics, numbers, figures. Indeed, for those of us who are not too good at maths in the grammar school, and I was not good at maths, I plodded through my weary way, assisted by my good friend Diaz, the son of the former Attorney General, who lived in the house right at the grammar school. Next to the grammar school, there was the Attorney General's residence, and just a few feet away was the bottom of the grammar school building, the wooden building. Those days, the top building had not been erected as yet. And Basil Diaz, as near as he lived, in fact, he lived practically in the schoolyard, found himself late coming to school on several mornings. But Basil is the one who helped me understand geometry. Algebra was a tough subject. But I quickly developed a respect for mathematics and mathematicians. Sorry. Excuse me. In my economics course, had to study the calculus, advanced mathematics, and econometrics, which is pure mathematics. Now, without the figures, without the statistics, economists are not able to build models, and government planning departments are not able to plan properly unless they have facts and figures to guide them. And you will find that the foundation of any strong government rests upon a strong statistical department. The statistical department is not only a crucial department in the governmental structure, it is indispensable. Without facts and figures, budgets cannot be properly crafted and organized, and governments have no way of testing the effectiveness of their policies. Therefore, statistics are needed to inform the making of government policies, to test the effectiveness of those policies, and to gauge their overall efficacy in the scheme of things. And I want to salute the personnel in our statistical department who must still be feeling the loss of one of their stalwarts not too long ago, and congratulate them for what they are doing. Now, the statistical department is not operating by guess. They are operating in accordance with the law, and it is that law that I wish to discuss briefly with you in this program, the Census and Statistical Act. We all know what a census is, in that every 10 years, people go around and ask us questions about this, that, and the other, and we give them answers, and then a year or two later, the government publish the figures, starting with how many people there are in the state and various categories and things about employment and all the sectors of the economy. But this law doesn't deal with the census alone. That is why it is called the Census and Statistics Act. In that, the law authorizes the government to collect information from its citizens on anything that the government wants information on. And there's a particular kind of information which is now being sought, which governments in the OECS are obliged to collect and to prepare reports. That exercise is called the Country Poverty Assessment exercise. And it is taking place right now as I speak, as this program is being done. And on this program, I really want to encourage all of us, the citizens of this country, and non-citizens too, where it concerns them, to give our fullest cooperation to the persons who have been employed to go around and collect information from us about various matters. And I will show you just now that the law protects the information which you might give. The Act is not a long one. It sets out the interpretation. It sets out the setting up the statistical office and its duties. It enumerates the duties of the statistician. It empowers the government department to employ persons. And then in Section 6 of the Act, it deals with the oath of secrecy, and I want to read this for you. Section 6, subsection 1 says, every person employed in the execution of any duty under this Act shall, before entering upon his duties, take and subscribe the oath set out in the schedule. Subsection 2, the oath shall be taken before such person and returned and recorded in such manner as may be prescribed. And Section 7 of the Act gives the authority to appoint authorized officers. Section 8 deals with census, and Section 9 with statistics. And I want to read you Section 9, subsection 1. The office may, with the approval of the minister, and shall, whenever the minister so directs, collect statistics for St. Vincent and the Grenadines, or any part thereof, with respect to such matter as may be prescribed. Remember I said a while ago, whatever area that the government wants to collect statistics in, it has the legal authority to send out its officers to collect those statistics. Now, use of sampling methods, 10, 11, publication of statistics. 12, power to obtain particulars, access to records, etc. 12.1, whenever census is being taken under Section 8 or statistics being collected under Section 9.1, an authorized officer may require any person from whom particulars may lawfully be obtained under this Act to supply him with such particulars as may be prescribed, or such of those particulars or such authorized officer may consider necessary or desirable in relation to the taking of such census or the collection of such statistics. And we therefore have, when I say we, I mean the citizens or residents, have a legal duty to provide information whenever information is requested by an authorized person. And if anybody comes to you purporting to be an officer of the statistical department, collecting statistics, you will be within your rights to ask them for an ID or some form of authorization. Because you never know when some malicious person may try to impersonate an official statistical officer and go around seeking to know people's business. And anybody who is genuinely carrying out duties will have no hesitation in producing their ID or letter of introduction or letter of authorization, as the case may be, to prove that such a person is indeed an authorized officer acting under the Act. Now, Section 13 is an important section. It is headed Powers of Entry, and it says, An authorized officer may at all reasonable times, for any purpose connected with A, the taking of a census, or B, the collection of statistics, enter and inspect any land and any premises other than a dwelling house. Subsection 2, the statistician shall produce proof of his appointment as statistician, and the person appointed an authorized officer shall produce his written appointment as an authorized officer before exercising the powers conferred under subsection 1, if required so to do by the owner, occupier, or person in charge of such land or premises. You would be told that the information you give would be protected, and that is quite correct. Section 14, is restriction on disclosure of information. And this is what it says. Except for the purposes of a prosecution under this act. A, no individual return or part thereof made for the purposes of this act. B, no answer given to any question put for the purposes of this act. C, no report, abstract, or other document containing particulars comprised in any such return or answer so arranged as to enable identification of such particulars with any person, undertaking, or business shall be published, admitted in evidence, or shown to any person not employed in the execution of a duty under this act, unless the previous consent in writing thereto has been obtained from the person making such return. And further down, section 15 provides a number of offenses. Any person being employed in the execution of any duty under this act who, and it goes on, by virtue of such employment becomes possessed of any information which shall, or who before such information is made public in accordance with the provision of this act, directly or indirectly or for public or for personal gain. B, without lawful authority, publishes or communicates any information acquired by him. C, knowingly compiles for issue any false in statistics or information. B, knowingly makes any false statement or does any act calculated to affect the correctness or accuracy of any information, is guilty of an offense and liable to imprisonment for 1 year. Therefore, the statistical employees, the persons who go around collecting information, know full well that if they fool around and disclose persons' private business without authority, they can be charged, and if found guilty, they can be liable to imprisonment for up to 1 year. And subsection 3 goes on to prescribe that any person who hinders or obstructs an authorized officer or who fails to duly complete any return or who transmit or deliver in accordance with such direction as may contain therein or given to him such return form or other document duly completed, or fails to answer any question lawfully asked by an authorized officer, and so on, is guilty of an offense and liable to a fine of $200, and if the offense is continued after the conviction, to a further fine of $10 for each day on which the offense is so continued. In summary, the Census and Statistics Act is a serious piece of legislation. It provides penalties for those who do not provide the information, so that when the authorized officers come around and ask you questions, please cooperate with them. The information is not collected for any sinister purpose. And the information collected by the statistical department cannot be given to any other department of government. For example, information you give to a statistical officer cannot be given to the income tax department or the police without your permission. But we have a duty, all of us under the Act, to provide the information required by the authorities through their duly authorized agents. Because without this information, proper planning cannot be undertaken. And this country poverty assessment project, which is embarked upon, and which you hear notices on the radio asking you to cooperate, take it seriously. Take it seriously. When our ministers go abroad to conferences, they need to take up-to-date and accurate statistics with them. They can't just go to a conference and when asked what is the position in St. Vincent and Grenadines, say, well, we don't know, but I could make an educated guess. No, they have to have information, facts and figures. When we go out seeking for financial assistance from international bodies or indeed from other governments, our ministers have to have information in the form of statistics. I know because I was a government minister for 8.5 years. And when you go to some of these conferences, you have to be up there with your facts and figures in order to make proper representation on behalf of our country. Now, occasionally, you will hear politicians on one side discouraging people from cooperating with government officers when they come to collect information. Don't bother with such discouragement. Because without that information, no government can perform properly. But even basic to that, as I have shown you, it is against the law not to cooperate with the persons seeking the information. So when, or if anybody comes to you seeking information and telling you that they're part of the poverty assessment project, you can verify that they are who they say they are. And if you are satisfied that the person is genuine, please do your best to cooperate so that the information provided to the government could be as accurate as humanly possible. Okay? That is our civic duty and the duty of those visitors who may not be citizens of St. Vincent and Grenadines, but they may be asked questions as well once they are here for any length of time. All right, that is all for this program of The Law and You. I hope next week, Monday, DV, to deal as I usually do with students who are going abroad to study. You know, every year around this time before students go off, I usually give some tips and some hints and advice as to how our people should conduct themselves in other people's countries. So that program will be the topic for next week's Law and You program. All right? So, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, boys and girls, do have a pleasant week, and may the good Lord continue to bless us all.
The Law and You, a look at laws in St. Vincent and the Grenadines which affect our daily lives. The Law and You, presented by lawyer panel P.R Campbell QC and brought to you on SVG-TV as a public service.